My cheating wife panicked when I showed up. Instead of her affair partner exposing her double life, my friend Frank was picking me up for a 4-day hunting trip. So I said goodbye to my wife. Frank packed his truck with all his hunting gear. Preparation was essential for success. He uncovered the truck bed and opened a drawer behind the cab. "Put your rifle here," he said, pointing to the box. I placed my rifle and the gear inside. I got in the cab and looked back at the house. The door was closed. Frank drove to an old family cabin, now managed by his Uncle Bob, who couldn't get his hands on it. "He's made major improvements," Frank said, "like better insulation and a more efficient wood stove, so we won't need parkas all the time this season. He's added a satellite dish for TV and internet." Frank continued, "There's no reliable cell service, but you can use WhatsApp over Wi-Fi if you want to call Ma. Fi, if you want to call Maeve, she doesn't expect much contact," I replied, "and I like being out of touch, so I won't mention the internet." We watched SportsCenter during dinner. Later I read a John Sanford novel while Frank used his laptop. We sipped our second beers of the evening. We weren't just out on a drunken boy trip, we were going to test ourselves against nature and hopefully get some venison. "Oh crap," Frank suddenly exclaimed. I closed my book. I looked at him. Frank's eyes were glued to the screen. As he scrolled, "Holy double crap," he said, then looked at me doubtingly. Then he looked at me with doubt on his face. I bookmarked my page. "What's up, Frank?" Was he reading the news? "Did something happen to Ma?" His voice dropped. "Oh shit, you need to see this." He turned the laptop towards me. I got up, crossed the room and sat down. I was expecting a horrible headline, but it wasn't a news site, it was a social networking site. On the screen was a picture of Ma smiling. I always thought her smile looked evil. I looked at Frank. "What the hell is this?" "Sorry, Matt, it's a dating site," he replied helplessly. "A dating site?" I couldn't believe it. "After all, Tracy and I broke up. I was in a bad place for months. I didn't do anything. Finally I started using Tinder and other sites to meet women." I stared at him. "Some of these sites skip the dating and go straight to the hookups." Frank lightened up. "I got lucky a few times, but there are wives on there too." "Wives?" "Yes, some wives. And a lot of husbands looking for some fun on the side." I looked back at the screen. Another picture of my wife appeared. My gut tightened. "MAF, look, Matt, I've seen a lot of fake profiles. They use women's names and pictures without their knowledge. Maeve might be a sufferer. I've never seen her on these sites before. I hope that's true." As I examined the profile, the photos were definitely of Maeve. Had they been hacked? One detail stabbed me in the heart. The outfit in one photo. I bought it for her last Christmas. The picture was less than a year old and I didn't take it. I started reading. "Can you help me with my daddy issues? And I don't mean sugar daddy. I think my dad has always wanted to, but he hasn't yet. I think about what it would be like sometimes. I imagine my dad now middle-aged but still hot. Sometimes I'm like, I imagine my dad now middle-aged but still hot. Sometimes I imagine him young. I even imagine a viral retired man. Daddy's girl would love to help, so if you are clean and fit the description, please send a photo. I am alone for the long weekend and would love some engaging daddy-daughter time." Below the profile was a box reading current status closing soon. I looked at Frank's daddy issues. "What the hell, maybe this is good," Frank said quickly, seeing my reaction. "Some cheating wives aren't unhappy with their husbands, they just have fantasies they're uncomfortable sharing, and maybe it's about trying something new, or they have daddy fantasies." Frank shrugged. I read on, feeling a lump in my throat. Frank said, "You found double crap." "Double crap indeed. Dad's family is from Greece and Italy, so he has a classic Mediterranean look. Dark eyes, dark curly hair, a strong nose with a slight Roman hump. If that's you, I'm looking forward to a daddy-daughter date. If you're 6 feet 2 inches, I'm looking forward to a daddy-daughter date. If you're 6 feet 5 inches with the build of a long-distance runner, you'll be distance runner. It's going to be a hot date." What Frank replied, "I thought you knew. But obviously you didn't." "Not a clue, man, not a clue." We were both confused. "Ma's dad Sean is a fair-skinned." I scrolled through the messages and saw one that caught my eye. "Hi, I've had a lot of free time this month. Do you have a place for me?" Maeve replied, "Oh yeah, I can make room. Let me know when I can see you again. Did you have a good time last month?" "Screw me," I said, stunned. "Shek has been doing this for a while." I looked at Frank. "Can you tell how long Shek has been doing this? Can you tell how long Shek has been on this site? Maybe she does it for money." I recoiled, half expecting to see Maeve on a live feed. Frank took the last step and navigated the site. "As far as I know, it's just a dating site. It's not set up like she's running a business. It looks like she's doing this for fun." He continued, "She thought once would be enough." I growled, "If it really was just once, she's having a whole weekend while I'm away." "Oh Matt, it's a pop-up site for speed dating, not long-term relationships. Make a date with her. Long-term relationships. Make a date with her." I said, "What? Swipe right or whatever and see if she's available this weekend. I want to know if she's really having fun while I'm up here." "I could try," he said reluctantly, "but I don't fit the description. She wants to see a picture." It hit me. She wants a picture of me. I told Frank my idea to set her up using my picture. He thought it was funny. I reminded him it was too late. I could still ruin her fun by writing in the chat room that I was coming home with a rifle. Frank said it was best not to warn her. She said she was free Friday and Sunday, so she'd make a date for then. Frank and I had taken Friday and Monday off to maximize our hunting time. "If you text her now, she'll have time to get her lies together." His voice tinged with anger, and I remembered that his wife Tracy had left him for her boss. "If we go now, you'll catch her in person with proof." He grinned as he looked at Ma's profile. It was a little over 3 hours home. We discussed our options, preparing May for our arrival, following her to her appointments, and catching her daddy. The most serious topic was the inevitable divorce. Frank's experience with divorce law was painful, but it would help me. 2 hours later, we were on our third iteration of plans, driving mostly in silence. We pulled onto my street around 10:45. Frank slowed down in front of my house. I told Frank to keep going. He glared but pressed the gas pedal. "Turn the corner and stop," I ordered. He did, then looked at me again. "There's a car parked across the street from our house. I don't recognize it. No one parks on this street at night." "She's already started, and she's doing it in our house." I reached for the door. "Thanks buddy, you can go screw it, man. We have a plan. We either check it out together or we go and deal with it tomorrow." "No, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. No, I need to know now," I insisted. "Come on, Matt, if she's alone, it won't prove anything, and you'll still be messed up. I need to know." I repeated. "Okay, plan B," he said. "Drive to the alley behind my house." Frank spoke forcefully. "Whether she's alone or not, we'll look around. Then go to my place. My divorce taught me to think before I react." He added, figuratively speaking, remembering my rifle in the truck, of course. I thought Frank parked and we walked silently to my house staying in the shadows. I lifted the lever of the alley gate hoping Ma had forgotten to lock it after taking out the garbage she had. We slipped inside. Our bedroom was in the back corner of the house. We saw a faint light behind the curtains moving quietly. To avoid the leaves we reached the larger window. I tried to peek inside but the curtain blocked the view. Frank shook his head. I moved closer. And saw a crack in the curtain. Peeking through I saw Maeve and an older man on the bed. I almost smashed the window but remembered my Leatherman tool. I reached for it but felt Frank's hand stop me. He signaled for silence and pulled me away. I fought but finally fell back. Frank threw his hands up and walked to the gate and I followed. We walked to his truck. I glanced at the lockbox under the vinyl upholstery. I knew it held rifles. Frank ignored my plea and said we've been here too long. He started the engine and drove out of the alley. He pulled into an empty grocery store parking lot a few blocks away. The store was closed and only employees' cars were there. Why don't I go in there and kick some? But I asked again, needing Frank's logical voice. Because you'd end up in jail. He said it's not his fault. Ma invited him. He probably doesn't know she's in jail. He said it's not his fault. Ma invited him. I have to be cold and tough if I want to get out of this marriage to my best advantage, I repeated, echoing Frank's advice. Back at Frank's apartment, he locked all the guns and bear spray in his gun cabinet, forbidding me to touch them while I was still in shock. We sat at the kitchen counter and Frank poured us tequila shots, silently toasting the messed up world we followed with Pacifico beers. She's cheating on you with you, Frank said, pondering the situation. Maybe she's trying to rekindle the spark from when you first met. I wasn't 55 then and our bed hasn't gone cold. Maybe she loves you and just wants more of you. Maybe daddy is how she's explaining it. I shook my head, dismissing the idea, or Frank continued to suggest opening up the relationship to control the situation. I gave him a look that said not going to happen, and asked for another beer. We slopped it down. We had another beer. 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 We overslept Friday morning but resumed our plans. Frank drove me to a car rental agency where I got a nondescript sedan. Then I went to a bank and opened a checking account with money from our trip. I transferred half of our savings and 20% of our checking to the new account. The banker Jim reminded me to leave enough money in our joint account for mortgage, car loans, and credit card payments to protect my credit. He helped me set up the bank app on my phone. Next I went to a T-Mobile store and bought a dual SIM phone with a top-of-the-line camera. I didn't change our phone number. I didn't change our family account so as not to alert Maeve. Frank convinced me to use our time until Monday to my advantage, even though I wanted to confront her right away. Sir, are you okay? I blinked and realized I was still at the T-Mobile table. The attendant was explaining how to switch SIM cards, and I had been lost in dark thought. Sorry, I said I hurt my knee yesterday and it's causing pain. I hope you feel better soon. She continued her explanation and I limped out of the store. Frank and I met at Starbucks and discussed the next phase of our plan over coffee. We then headed back to my neighborhood. We left Frank's conspicuous truck in the same supermarket parking lot as last night, now filled with cars. Frank drove us to my neighborhood. Frank drove us to my house in my rental car. This time my car was in the garage but Ma's car and the red Hyundai Accent were gone. We reached the alley and I jumped out and entered through the back gate that Ma still hadn't locked. I thought about reminding her to lock it but then I realized I was lucky she didn't enter through the front door. That might alert the neighbors, so I stuck to the plan. Frank took up his position in the supermarket parking lot. We usually drove home on Tompkins Parkway at 3rd Street, keeping an eye on the house. I felt a little paranoid since Ma was supposed to be at work, but caution was key. I unlocked the back door and used a pole to enter the utility room. I lowered the attic ladder as I poked my head through the skylight. The walkie-talkie on my belt beeped. Twice. Frank signaled that he was in position. It would beep every 10 minutes as a countdown. I pressed the send button briefly to confirm our connection. Attic was too generous a term for the cramped storage space under the eaves. I had to crouch down to move around. Luckily the luggage I needed was just a few feet from the trapo. I grabbed a canvas gear bag in an old backpack-style briefcase. I avoided taking my favorite bags from downstairs to leave as little trace as possible. I closed the attic and checked for any prints or marks. Next I went to the alcove in the living room we used as a home office. I took my passport, social security card, will, birth certificate and marriage license from the small safe and placed them in the briefcase. There was also $2,000 in cash. The safe also contained gold coins worth about $5,000. Frank's double beep signaled that I'd been in for 10 minutes. I went to the bedroom and grabbed black slacks, 2 dress shirts, 2 ties, dress socks, and black loafers, just enough so that Maeve wouldn't notice. The hard part was setting up surveillance at Starbucks. Frank and I had figured out the new phone's timeout feature. I hid the phone on a cabinet and peered between my hats to make sure it covered 80% of the bed. I also adjusted the curtains for a better view next time, despite Frank's advice against it. Another 10-minute warning from Frank came just as I was finished. I moved to the living room. We had taken a trail camera from the cabin. I mounted it on a high bookcase to cover the sitting area. It had a motion sensor, a charged battery and an empty SD card for the 3-day weekend. The bedroom phone would upload photos to my cloud every 6 hours. I left the house with 2 minutes to spare and received Frank's last signal. I joined him in the parking lot, keeping an eye on the corner of 3rd Street at Tompkins Parkway. Next we walked through the KFC drive-thru and sat at Frank's table with food and paper scattered about. We each had notebooks with to-do lists that resembled a hostile takeover. I wasn't hungry, but nibbled on chicken tenders and fries, more interested in the Jack Daniels. Frank added to my Coke. Okay, you should text her. Frank said, let's keep things normal. Maeve knew the cell signal was bad in the mountains and relied on it to avoid awkward calls from me. I stared at the screen. What do I say? Give me that, Frank said. Pick up the phone, just say what you always say. He scrolled through our past texts. Here we go, the usual. He read aloud as he typed, hey babe, we got here without a hitch, the weather seems good, we'll be out on the trail early in the morning, I'll text you later. Again later Zoxo Matt. He hit send and then started dialing another number. The next call is to the lawyer. Frank said Kelly DeWitt had helped him with his divorce and would be good for me too. He introduced me to her then handed me the phone. Hello Matt. A pleasant voice said Frank didn't tell me your last name Karis but call me Matt. I said okay Matt, I understand this happened unexpectedly. And pretty ugly, she said. Yeah, pretty damn ugly, excuse my language, I replied. She laughed. Don't worry, if you can't vent to your lawyer, who can you vent to? She said. I relaxed a bit. So are you my lawyer? Do I need one? I asked. Leighton, start with the second question. This is about infidelity, right? Are you willing to forgive it and try counseling? She inquired. Hell no, I replied. Well, are you willing to use the court system? Are you willing to use the court's online system to file on your own? She asked. That's for no-fault cases, right? I can't file for infidelity there, I replied. Correct, if you want infidelity to affect alimony and such you need a lawyer, she stated. Can you represent me? Frank says you did right by him. I said. Did he tell you the cost? She asked. He did. I confirmed. Our prices have gone up a little, but I'll charge you the same as Frank. Sounds fair, she suggested. Yes, when can we meet? I asked. I can fit you in Monday morning, she offered. I covered the phone and whispered to Frank she wants to start right away because the case is interesting. He grinned. I told you, Miss DeWitt, that works for me. Should I bring my proof? I asked. Do you already have proof? I suppose you just discovered the deception? She asked. Yes. The deception? She asked. Yes, we took screenshots of her profile and saw her with a guy last night. I also installed a camera in my bedroom to catch any other activity over the weekend, I explained. So she was advertising online for mates. Interesting, she noted, and she was looking for guys who looked like me. I added. Just to clarify, haven't you gained a lot of weight since you got married? She asked. No, I replied. I'm 6 feet 0 inches and 185 pounds heavier than when we were married. I lift weights and run regularly. Good to know. We'll talk more on Monday, she said. Good, that's good to hear. Okay Matt, after we hang up I'll open a secure data transfer site and send you the login code. Frank knows the portal address. Send me any evidence you have and review it before our meeting at 11 o'clock. On Monday, she instructed. 110,000 Monday. Yes, I'll see you then, I confirmed. And Matt, she added. Yes, I responded. Avoid your wife until we meet or don't return home. I only practice family law and not criminal law, she advised. Okay, I paused. Okay, after getting the secure code from the lawyer and sending her screenshots of Moo's profile, Frank checked my phone. My wife responded quickly. Miss you, but hope you're having fun. Happy hunting. Love you, ma. Frank typed a message to Maeve saying we. He then put the phone in his safe, explaining that it would act like a Faraday cage. I'll press send, but the signal will be blocked. Then I'll turn the power off. When you turn it back on later, it will look like the message was delayed by a bad signal. You read too many spy novels, I said, but I was grateful. Frank then shared his divorce experience, detailing how he had to pay the mortgage and spousal support for his ex-wife, even though she was seeing another man. I hoped Ma's infidelity would spare me such a fate. We applied Frank's knowledge. I closed investment accounts and changed the passwords on all of Ma's logins. I updated contact information on all accounts to my new phone and email. I canceled the joint credit cards except for the 1M used for daily expenses, which I lowered the limit on as the 6-hour mark approached. It was time to go to work. As the 6-hour mark approached, it was time to check the first data dump to my cloud account. I almost lost my KFC when I saw my wife's activity. I'd programmed the phone to take 6 pictures every 30 seconds. Every 15 minutes the first set showed an empty bed now made with different pillowcases. Out of the picture sets, 6 were blank and 5 showed her with 2 other lovers. I need to get out of here. I need to get out of here. I groaned, swallowing. Yes, Frank agreed. Come on, I'll buy you a drink. No, I need to be alone, I said. I don't think that's a good idea, Matt, Frank said. Damn it, Frank, I need to throw up, I need to cry, I need to be alone, I insisted. I understand, but getting caught driving drunk or getting into trouble isn't going to help, Frank advised. I assured him, I'd avoid bars, I'd avoid drinking, I'd avoid getting into trouble, I'd avoid getting into trouble, I'd avoid getting into trouble, I'd avoid getting into trouble. I assured him I would avoid bars and home, just get on the highway and drive, he suggested. He reluctantly agreed and sent pictures of each daddy to Kelly DT. Before I left he reminded me to turn on my phone so Maeve would get my message and he could check on me. I thanked him and drove off, promising to stay away from alcohol. I drove 30 minutes north and back to the supermarket was still open, so I parked and walked to my house, entering the alley behind it. The back gate was locked, but I climbed over the fence, crossed the yard quietly, and peeked through the gap in the curtains. My phone beeped with a message and then a call from Frank. I dismissed it and walked on. Suddenly I heard out of the darkness, I see you idiot. It was Frank standing in the bed of his truck. Get over here or I'll start honking, he warned. I crept to the fence, making more noise than I liked. I didn't want the neighbors calling. 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 You want the neighbors to call. What the hell, I hissed. Shek's in there with a toy soldier. I'm going to teach him some manners, Frank declared. Get out of here or I'll call the police myself, I threatened. I climbed over the fence into the bed of his truck. We drove away quietly, stopping at a bar on Tompkins Parkway. 2 blocks from the supermarket. We sat in a booth in the back and Frank made me drink a shot of Jim Beam and take a long swig of Bud before he let me talk. I've had enough. She's turned my house into a whorehouse. I'll never sleep there again, but I'll be damned if I'm going to let this disrespect continue, I vented. Okay, then let's stop, Frank said, catching me off guard. What? I asked. Give me your phone. He took it, went to my contacts and called Maeve. He put it on speaker. After 5 rings, she picked up, gasping. Matt, why are you? I mean, what a nice surprise. You must really miss me, Ma said. Hi, Ma, it's Frank, Frank replied. Frank, why are you calling? Is Matt okay? She asked, worried. He's had a little accident. It's not too serious, but I might be taking him down the mountain tonight. Just wanted to let you know, Frank explained. Oh my God, what happened? Can I talk to him? May asked, panicked. Calm down. It's not that bad. He fell and hit his head on a tree branch and he's sleeping with an ice pack. If he acts weird I'll take him to the hospital, Frank assured her. Do I need to come? She asked. No, like I said. Frank ran his thumb over the microphone and dropped the phone under the table so there's no reception. Frank, I didn't hear that last part, Ma said, confused. Frank stroked the microphone one more time. Lie one more time, now more later. Then he disconnected the call. Okay, Frank said. We've stopped it. I laughed for the first time in 24 hours after I hung up. I had to know if the prank worked. Frank was sure Ma would throw out the soldier. As we walked from the bar to my house, Frank mentioned that Ma probably made visitors park in front of the supermarket to avoid suspicion. How considerate of her, I grinned. Shoo, I think that's him, Frank said. Ahead a man in an army uniform walked towards us. Frank positioned himself between us. Good evening, Frank addressed the soldier, who grunted in response. Frank stopped and turned, making the soldier stop and face us. He looks like you when you were younger, Frank said to me. The soldier furrowed His brow, then his eyes widened as he looked between us. His eyes widened as he looked between us. Young daddy, meet your real husband, Frank said. You like married women, don't you? I growled. Frank took a step in front of me. Down boy, he said clearly for the soldier to hear. Didn't you notice any pictures that looked like an older brother when you were in that married woman's house? Frank asked now. I saw his anger. My buddy had been calm but faced with the situation his own pain surfaced. She said she was divorced. The guy stammered not yet but soon. I growled oh crap. He started to run. I knew I could catch him but Frank stepped in front of me. No man no. For the second time in 2 days I almost pushed my best friend aside but then I saw the misery on his face. I lost Tracy to a cheater. I don't want to lose you too. I relaxed. But still wanted to go after the soldier. You've already lost the main battle kid. If you attack him you'll win a small one but lose the war. It'll just make you look like a fool. I slumped. Maybe I'll beat him up later, I said in 6 months, after we give you an alibi. Frank grinned. We were sitting in my rental car in the store parking lot. Ma had kicked the solder out and Frank thought we had stopped her cheating. Frank was tired of my obsession but agreed to give me a chance. A Nissan Sentra with out-of-state plates pulled up and a guy got out. He read the street signs under the streetlight. He looked like me, maybe a cousin. He headed up 3rd Street and I ran. I waited at the corner of Maple and 3rd. The guy checked the house number, then walked up to our front door. I hid behind a tree and watched. He rang the doorbell and Ma partially opened the door. I couldn't see her, but I heard her voice, too soft to understand. The door closed after a few seconds and he knocked loudly. Maeve opened it on the security chain and said I'm sorry, but it's off now, please leave before I call the police. The door slammed and I heard the deadbolt click. The guy stood there and realized he had come a long way for nothing. What the hell, hey cow. He cut his run short when the porch light next door came on. As the door opened he turned and ran quickly to the sidewalk. Curious retirees saved me from being seen. I stayed hidden while old Virgil Leonard looked out and saw the man walking away. When it was clear, I hurried down 3rd Street, resisting the urge to knock on my front door. Frank was waiting for me at the corner of Elm, and we walked back to Tompkins in the supermarket parking lot. I agreed. Saturday morning, after a restless sleep in Frank's guest room, I reviewed the camera footage from the night before. Maeve had been restless too. With nothing new, I was preparing photos of Ma's encounters to send to my attorney. Should I include the video I took through the window? I asked Frank. Hell no, he replied. What you got from the other camera is enough. Let's not mention going into the house. I think that toy soldier freaked out. I asked. Send the pictures. Frank probably grinned, then frowned. I hope he stops showing off before he meets a husband with an unlocked gun. Thanks for ruining my mood. I turned on my phone and saw a dozen messages and missed calls from Maeve. I called her. Hey babe, it's Matt. Sorry Frank scared you. I'm fine now. I'll stay as planned and see you tonight. Love you. I hit send and the phone rang. It was Kelly. Hey Kelly. Hey Kelly. Kelly, hey. Kelly, didn't expect to hear from you on a Saturday morning. Hey, Matt, I saw your new package on the website. I went to the microphone and asked Frank if I should tell her. He nodded. Kelly, I'm putting you on speaker so Frank can explain why Ma's night ended quietly. Good morning, Kelly, Frank said. Good morning, Frank. What have you been up to? Did I influence you badly with my barbs to Tracy? Frank explained the prank call and the text messages, but left out the sneaking around the back of the house or confronting the soldier. I like that, she said when he finished. Are you sure she cancelled the other dates? Just responded to my last text. I said screw the dear, come home, I need you, I love you, please come home now. Told you, Frank said. Told him what? Kelly asked. That she really loves him despite all this. Kelly, have you encountered nymphomaniacs in your practice? People with serious mental disorders? She paused. I've had clients and spouses with mental problems. It's possible, and I'm supposed to accept that. Forgive her if she claims it wasn't her fault. Kelly, you've seen the pictures. How do I stop seeing them every time I look at her? I don't think you can, Kelly said, if she's diagnosed with a disorder. It will affect the terms of the divorce, but no judge is going to deny you a divorce after she planned all this. This conversation has forced me to make a decision, Kelly. How soon can you file the papers? I can't live with her anymore. I understand. She said I'll have some options ready for us to discuss on Monday. We'll probably have to meet with her and her lawyer before we decide. Okay, but what do I tell her Monday night when I don't come home? You won't tell her anything. I'll take care of it. So what do I do now? I asked. I've reviewed your actions and you seem to have it covered. Anything more could backfire, so sit tight, be patient and don't do anything rash. Frank grinned and said, I'm doing my best to keep him from doing that, but he keeps trying. By the way, Matt, didn't you say you were still good for Kay? Frank and I froze, wondering if Kelly was referring to my stamina. Yeah, I think I said something like that. Ma called again and I turned my phone off. Following Kelly's advice, I went to buy some new running gear, as I hadn't brought any on the hunt. Frank joined me for a run, but we stopped at 3 miles, beyond his comfort zone. I was still feeling restless, so Frank suggested a way to vent. I shot much more than Frank, so he finished cleaning his rifle first and talked to the range master. They looked at me a few times. What did he say? I asked Frank on the way back. He asked if I could keep you from shooting anything but paper targets. I said I could. Frank moved my rifle to his gun safe as soon as we got back to his apartment. The weekend was excruciating with Frank keeping me busy. We watched Marvel movies, and he limited my whiskey, making sure I had non-alcoholic drinks in between. On Sunday, he texted her that I planned to spend the day in a tree stand. She's starting to call you an idiot for not coming home. Frank laughed. Wait till she gets served with divorce papers. I replied that a part of me enjoyed the revenge, but mostly I was miserable that I loved Ma and thought she loved me back. Maybe she had a breakdown. After a 4th sleepless night, I woke up Monday exhausted but determined about the divorce. Ma had planned too much and enjoyed it too much. We texted her that we were leaving again that morning and wouldn't be back until late. I apologized for scaring her on Friday and assured her that I was fine. We did this from the supermarket parking lot near our house. Her response was quick. You made me suffer all weekend and still can't give up that deer to come back early. Maybe you should just go to Frank's place because I don't want to see you right away. I had to smile at the irony of her suggesting what I had planned all along. 15 minutes later I saw her car driving down 3rd Street and turning right onto Tompkins, her usual route to work. Once the coast was clear, I climbed the fence and entered through the back door, retrieving my camera from the living room and my new cell phone from the bedroom, then grabbed a suitcase from the second bedroom, which served as a pantry and closet, but was supposed to be a nursery one day. I filled the suitcase with more clothes, gold coins from the safe, and my laptop, thinking she would hear the bad news from Kelly before she realized I had been in the house, back at Frank's. I pulled the SD card from the camera and plugged it into the computer. Exhausted, I brushed my teeth and collapsed on the bed, fully dressed, until Frank called to tell me the videotaping in the living room was over. My laptop was on the coffee table with a shot of whiskey next to it on a Monday morning and I was already embracing the life of a divorced man. Why not? I downed the shot and settled in to watch the footage. Frank was right, the video from Friday night to Monday morning was more entertaining and informative than I expected. After the soldier left, we saw snippets of Maeve pacing the house, phone in hand, talking or texting, trying to check up on me. This continued all night Saturday and Sunday. She looked increasingly irritated as I brushed off her concerns in favor of hunting. I noticed Maeve cleaning up, putting back things in the living room that had been missing, mostly pictures of me. Sitting next to me eating sausage biscuits and drinking black coffee. Damn, I said, she really erased me, didn't she? That guard wasn't lying when he said Ma filed for divorce. Wait, go back. Frank said, go back to the end of Friday. What did you see? I asked. Rewind to an earlier clip. Look at her hands. He said Ma was pacing the living room texting with both hands. What then? I realized, oh no, rings. I skipped ahead to about 10:30 Saturday morning. Here they are. She played the role of divorce to the last Kelly DT. My attorney greeted me when I arrived at her office. She was tall in a well-tailored suit with striking features. I focused on her dark amber eyes. She assessed me 6 feet 180 long distance runner with some muscle. I guess I can believe the rest of your self-description, she said. Thankfully phrased it in the right way. I guess I can believe the rest of your description, she said gratefully, phrasing it as a statement. Have a seat, Matt. I'm sure it was a rough weekend. How are you? Kelly asked. It was hard. Any news from Maeve? I had sent her some of Ma's messages, including the one asking me not to come home. This just came in while I was parking. I handed her my phone. Baby, please ignore my last message. Yes, I'm mad, but I need you home. I'm dying here without you. Please, Maddie, I'm dying here without you. Please, Maddie. Kelly read aloud. Okay, Kelly said, it doesn't seem like your wife did this to get rid of you. I have a feeling once she knows you found out, she won't try it again. I can't pretend this didn't happen. I said, no, of course not, but if she explains and promises it won't happen again, could you forgive her? Kelly asked. Kelly raised her hand to stop my angry response. I have to ask for reconciliation, Matt. The judge will insist, and I have a feeling you still love her, she continued. I do, but I don't see how I can. You've seen pictures and clips, but you haven't sat through any of it, I said. Kelly didn't have to ask what I meant. She just said, I understand, but as a family lawyer, I have to see if the family can be saved. Ma will probably fight to keep you two together, but no, she can't force you to stay together. Okay, tell me your plan and let's work out the property and financial details if you want to file quickly. I said, since this is for infidelity, do I still have to give her half of everything and pay alimony since my income is double hers? I asked. Kelly spent the morning answering these questions and more through PM. With deli sandwiches delivered, she had a plan to minimize the damage to my finances and position. It was time to pull the trigger and I nodded to Kelly. She put my phone on speaker and called Maeve. The call was answered before the first ring ended. Maddie, where are you? Are you coming? Maddie, are you okay? What the hell are you playing at, idiot? Oh, my God, baby, I need you. Where are you? I said frantically. Mrs. Karras, Mrs. Karras, Mrs. Karras. Kelly almost screamed to stop Ma's tirade. What? Who is that? Oh, my God, she screamed. Where's Matt? What happened to Matt? Mr. Karras, Matthias is fine, he wasn't hurt at all, he's fine, Kelly assured her, but Frank said, who are you and why are you calling on Matt's phone? Ma asked confused. Mr. Karras gave me his phone to make sure you answered, I assure you. Hune's fine, Mr. Spinner's reports were a hoax, I apologize for the fear they caused. Kelly explained. Kelly stuck her tongue out at me. A prank? What's going on? Who are you and why are you calling my cell phone? Matt. Maeve demanded. Mrs. Karras, I'm using Mr. Chris's phone with his permission and this call is being recorded. Do you mind? Kelly? Who are you? Ma asked. My name is Kelly DeWitt, an attorney with Green Family Law in Springville. Your husband, Matthias Karras, has hired me to represent him in the dissolution of your marriage. Kelly stated. The dissolution? Ma repeated, stunned. Yes, Mr. Karras wants the dissolution to be quick and private. Kelly confirmed. A sordid affair, I imagine. May stunned, able only to repeat Kelly's words. Yes, Mrs. Karras, normally we'd serve you with divorce papers, but Mr. Karras hopes to reach an agreement. Do you have a pen and paper? I'll give you my contact information. Kelly offered. No, I don't have it. I'll send you a message with my contact information. I need to talk to Matt. This is all wrong. We love each other. Is he there? I need to talk to him. Ma pleaded. I'm sorry, Mrs. Karras, but Mr. Karras is not ready to talk. Have your lawyer contact me. Goodbye, Kelly said firmly. Kelly hung up as Ma began to speak. That went well, Kelly said, sending a text with her office information to Ma's phone before disconnecting it. Her words were sarcastic, but sounded sad. Are you okay? I asked, feeling the odd role reversal. I like protecting spouses from abuse, but cases like this make me sad and tired. Something strange is going on here, Matt. I think you're doing the right thing, but I don't sense vindictiveness from your wife, for whatever reason, maybe an uncontrollable addiction. She's blown up her life and neither of you will be happy. Screw me, I haven't even seen the last happy day of my life yet. Have I seen the last happy day of my life? Kelly shook her head vigorously. No, it sucks now, but it's not the end. We'll connect you with a therapist. If you take counseling seriously, you'll get better faster. Frank waited too long for counseling and it cost him unnecessary pain. Don't make the same mistake. It cost me, Frank confirmed a few hours later as we ate chicken wings, shrimp and Bloody Marys at a downtown sports bar. I thought therapy was just psychological nonsense, but I ended up wallowing in my own mess like a clogged toilet. You talked to me for a while and you could have talked more, I said. I said, trying to ignore his metaphor. I know you had my back, but seeing you and Maeve so happy hurt more than it helped, at least until I got outside counseling. But why did I ask? Because you and Maeve seemed perfect, and it made me grieve for what I had lost. The realization that I had been living a lie for so long hurt more. I sipped my drink, unsure of what to say. After seeing Kelly's therapist, I could finally see you two as a sign of hope instead of a reminder of my past, and now it all turned out to be another lie. I said, screw me. He muttered, screw me, I repeated, raising my glass for a toast. We clinked. Hey Matt, have a seat, Kelly DeWitt said, this time in a small conference room with papers spread out on a table. It was Tuesday afternoon and I had taken the day off after updating my work information on Monday. I had spent most of the day at Frank's looking for a new place to live since I couldn't live in my ruined house. I ran 5 miles in the morning and another 3 before meeting Kelly, hoping the endorphins would help me stay calm. Kelly had talked to May that morning and she said I needed to hear what Ma had to say in person. As the receptionist led me into the conference room, I half expected to see Maeve and her lawyer. I expected Maeve and her lawyer to be waiting. Kelly laughed slightly and waved me into the empty room. No, just us. We needed space to work. As I sat down, she added that Ma wanted to be here to explain, but if this was a TV show it would be a classic showdown. I'm glad it's not TV, I said. Kelly gave me a wicked grin. I grinned as I thought about our meeting the day before. I realized I was glad she wasn't like Ma at all. I think you'd be surprised, Kelly said, but it would be better if you heard it from Maeve. Stop escalating the situation, I said. Here, what's that? She did it all for you, Kelly replied. I'm sure she got more than she bargained for, I said, shocked. What the hell? I barely stopped the profanity. The smirk disappeared from Kelly's face and she placed her hand on mine as they clenched into fists on the table. She claimed I was some kind of willing betrayer. I added. My voice rose and I started to get up, but Kelly grabbed my wrist. I'm sorry, I didn't think you'd take it like that. I'm really sorry, Kelly said, trying to calm me down. I relaxed a little and stared at her. Didn't say she was very upset that you found out and left her. I hadn't thought of it that way, but yes, I admitted it. Then what did you mean? You mean she did it all for me? I asked. About the baby, Kelly said quietly. It hit me. We had been trying to have a baby for 11 months. She found someone like me to get her pregnant since I hadn't succeeded yet. She desperately wanted a baby and I hadn't realized she was willing to go to such extreme measures. She did this to get pregnant? I asked for confirmation. Yes, Kelly replied, pushing some pages towards me. It was a lab report from 3 months ago ordered by my gynecologist. It took me a moment to realize that Dr. Wellborn had provided 2 samples from patient 25473, both with low counts. Am I patient 2? For 73, I asked, Kelly nodding. But how did she get the samples? I asked, seeing Kelly's embarrassment for the first time. She secretly took samples for analysis when you couldn't get her pregnant after 6 months, Kelly explained. Instead of talking to me, she found guys who looked like me and accepted their donations the old-fashioned way, Kelly continued. She said your insurance didn't cover RT, which is expensive, and you'd already used your savings to buy the house.